everybody. It's Spinja, and I'm back with another episode. Um, I have with me today Matthew Mournian. I heard him on Rob Khalil's show, the Typical Skeptic podcast. I know it's been mentioned quite a bit on my show because Rob is absolutely awesome. He's one of the hardest working people in the community, I think. And so I want to give him as much credit as possible. And if you haven't had a chance to check out his show, it's called the Typical Skeptic Podcast. It is worth it, definitely in my opinion. And so I want to welcome Matthew. I heard, as I mentioned, I heard him on Rob's show. He was doing tarot readings, and just his accuracy just blew me away. I thought it was very fascinating. And then he was also talking to Rob in regards to some of the health issues that he's been having. And I'm just going to throw it out there. This is not a medical show. We're not giving medical advice. It's just, things that work for individuals, and we're just trying to expand your mind. Like a lot of people, like we're all, like, a lot of us are beginners, and so this is just another opportunity. I've invited Matthew because I was fascinated with what he was talking about, and I figured rather than bombard him with questions, like via Facebook or whatever, I would just ask the questions because I feel like there's a lot of other people that may have the same questions. So with all of that said, welcome Matthew, and please tell us a bit about what you do, and I want to know all about your book, and I'm all ears, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this. I mean it very, very sincerely. I think I was one of those people that at an earlier stage of my life never got invited to anything ever. So like if people ask me to be on their show, I'm always like, yeah, 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 really, really, really. Okay, sure. So anyway, yeah, thank you for inviting me. I guess how I would describe myself at this stage of the journey is always kind of a weird thing because I commonly come away from the work that I do or the sessions that we facilitate, and I'm like, what are we really doing? I don't actually know, but I would say the way that I define myself professionally at this stage of the human journey is as a professional psychic and energetic practitioner. And so I guess basically what that means is that we do psychic readings over a number of things, really anything going on in a person's life. But more importantly, we use that energy and that understanding to then go through very particular types of energetic clearing processes that help people remove negativity from their lives, sometimes toxicity, sometimes things like entities or, attachments or implantation, which are all kind of catch-all terms for many of the same things. But I essentially work within the realm of spirit, which for some people, when they hear that phrase or that line, is a little bit cringe, depending on what you define as spirit. But I've come to learn over the past, I guess, 7 or 7.5, almost 8 years of doing this, that that's literally what we do. And not only do we kind of work within that realm in order to create change in the physical world, we also go through a lot of, like physical healing processes and talk about, organs and channels and things. And anyway, I could go on and on about it, but at this stage of my life, it's the only thing that I do. I'm grateful that's the only thing I have to do. So somehow I must be doing it right because it continues to support us. But yeah, that's pretty much me. That's what we do every day. So I hope it makes sense.
It does. So if somebody wanted a clearing done, and they contacted you, like what's the process? Like, do you have an intake process? Do you
Oh yeah.
talk to them?
Yeah, well, I call it somewhat of a three-part protocol. And what I mean by that is that there's a few essential areas of the private session that we engage in. The first one is usually, and it's funny because I was talking to a lady earlier this morning and I said the exact same thing. Step one is we just come in the door and fling the doors wide open and say, tell me everything. What happened? What's going wrong? What's going right? How did you get here? What sort of strange thoughts and cyclical things pop up in your mind as soon as you come into the session? Because if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that as soon as we enter that moment with the intention of healing or gaining knowledge, there's this effect that takes place where your guides and your guardians and your ancestors and all those unseen non-physical beings that sit with you during this human experience, they'll show up. and it's like certain thoughts or memories or events will come through the mind's eye, and every now and then we know exactly what it is, but they always show up and they always bring a piece of data or little bits of a person's experience. So step one is about just learning, like, who are we, what are we doing here, how did you find this, what what's the story. And then step two is we'll do a reading, and pretty much every clearing session that I engage in, we'll also do a reading. I use tarot, not that that's the only method. There's a million forms of divination out there, but tarot is just the one that spoke to me the earliest and one that I understand. So we do a little bit of a reading. I call it the timeline reading, where we just kind of look at where we are positioned within the multi-dimensional game board, or it's like, where are you at in this stage of your life? What energies are around you? What are you being influenced by? What sort of, and this is where the fun comes in, what sort of organs or channels or chakras or pieces of you has spirit indicated as being in need of some form of clearing? So that's step two. We do a reading. And then step three is we do a meditative process that is essentially an energy clearing procedure that honestly we both do together. I'm not one of those people that does the whole, I am now clearing all of the blah, blah, blah out of your body. You know what I mean? It's a thing that we do together. And it's very much, it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's literally real. It's like a trip that we take inside your body. And it's very hypnotic. People tend to go a little bit unconscious. We move through many layers of memories or fragments of data inside the body, and we just kind of travel through the internal realm and, loosen up things, release certain frequencies, blockages in the self. I use a modality that I call scalar toning, which is essentially just another way of saying it's a vocal transmission, meaning I will use certain mantras, or I call them capsule phrases, which is part of essentially an extraterrestrial language that's coming back to Earth, which we can talk about if you like. So there's
Yeah.
a series of like phrases and tones, and honestly, it's a bizarre mix of like a therapy session, a psychic reading, and a weird alien shaman, all kind of like together. There's a lot of strangeness in it, but I've just learned over, I guess, seven and something years, and honestly, I'm pretty sure it's over 5,000 people that I've done this process with now, that something actually happens. Like something really does take place. It's funny because I was saying this on Rob's show last night, and it's cool to know that your guys' shows have kind of been born out of what he's created, because he's influenced so many people with his work, and I don't think he knows. It's like he just keeps doing his thing, and it's like people find you through that. And so
Yeah.
um, anyway, I don't even know where I was going with all that, but after all these people over all this time, we know it's past the point of being a fairy tale. Something actually happens, and so I guess I'm just grateful to be involved in it, because a lot of people that know me know I will say this. I did not have any idea this was what I was going to do in this life. None whatsoever. Like, no idea this was coming. So anyway, watch out because I'll talk on and on. But yeah.
No, that is all so cool. Um, alien language. Yeah, he said he was going to talk. Oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I definitely want to come back to that. But no, what I was going to say is, it like the way that you were describing it, like the part where you basically go into the body with the person that you're doing the work with. It sounds like sort of like a tour guide role. Like the
Yeah.
the people don't really, they know it's their space, but they don't really understand what's going on in there. So it kind of sounds like, the way I'm perceiving it is that you're going in there with them and saying, hey, okay, so this does that, and like this area you might want to focus on, and this is how you do it, like you might want to try this kind of thing. Is that, am I
Very
perceiving
much.
that
Oh,
correctly?
totally. That's literally it. And it's like I will literally say that at the start of a session. It's like over the time you kind of build a little bit of a, like a spiel that you use. And part of it is we're taking a trip through the layers of your internal realm, through your internal anatomy, and into the non-physical, unseen parts of the self. When you do that in a measured form with enough hypnotic energy, with the right knowledge of energy anatomy and certain passageways in the body, you will find that you can literally, and you've seen this with groups and people that do, group shamanic journeys, you will literally enter the internal world inside you. And when done in unison with another person, it's sort of like that line in the Bible where they say, whenever two or more are gathered. You know what I mean? It's like as soon as you enter into that space with another person, there are very particular type of things that will occur. And it's like we're going on a weird little tour through all your organs and your chakras. And anyway, yeah, that's what we do.
It was funny as you're describing this, like Don sitting beside me, and I just said, you need a session. And he just
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah,
wrote
we totally
in
can.
his notebook, we both need a session, like at the same time as we were writing it.
Totally. We can work it out. If you feel guided to it, you'll know. I'm one of those people that it's like which is kind of a shortcoming. I don't go out there and blast what I do to everyone in the world. I've learned the hard way over the past 7 years of doing this that when you start doing this type of work full time, some people love it. Other people are frightened by it. Some people will suddenly become resentful toward you. Some people hold you at arm's length. Other people just want to experience what you do because it's like a magic thing. And then other people will be like, what? What is that? Oh, really? And you'll feel this thing where you're like, I kind of feel like maybe I should. And that's usually spirit saying, like, hey, this could benefit you. And so I always say, there's always a way that we can work it out. We stay very accessible to the world, but if you feel called to it, we can definitely arrange it. So yeah.
That would be absolutely awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to go back to the language that you were like the alien language that you were talking about. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. It's a pretty fascinating thing. For some people, it's incredibly like, what, okay, really? But I'll very, very briefly tell you the story because it's kind of essential to understanding why and how this supposed language works. And this is the ultra short version. In late 2017, I was working at a physical shop doing the same work that I do now in the greater Los Angeles area. And it was just one of those little dingy, dirty psychic shops that you'll find around a number of, cities in the US. And one day I was just there at work and I did a little bit of a meditation after lunch, just in this little reading room. And it was one of those rare times in a person's life. And I know this happens to a lot of other people, but it was like I just closed my eyes and suddenly it was like my eyes were forced open. And I was in another place. I was in an outdoor area. I was watching in front of me what looked like three very tall, very black skinned, very muscular, almost too large, just very tall humanoid males. Well, I call them, like these Zulu or Dogon shamanic warriors, and they were doing this weird kind of dance in front of me. There was three of them, and they were like moving their arms and breathing and doing this like and like doing this thing back and forth and stomping their feet. And I remember going just like, what is happening to me? What is happening? And these men walked up in front of me and they took their hands and they made like this wall over my body, one in front of me and each one on the other side of my body. And they put their hands over me like this. And then they split off and they came around. And one of them walked up to me and held his hand out and went and blew some dust in my face. The second that that occurred in that out of body experience, I was immediately transported to another location. I showed up inside an indoor dwelling, something that looked like some sort of a hut or a earthen sort of tribal dwelling place. It was very like round. It wasn't like a manufactured building. It was like this sort of like dwelling place. And inside that room to my right was what looked like a boy, like this young boy, a version of those same humanoid beings. And he was laying on kind of like a table that looked like he was made out of stone, and his body was kind of scrunched up in this weird way. And on the side of his head, was this massive glowing crack, like this huge crack that had just opened in this kid's head. And it was glowing. It was like this metallic glowing crack that was in this child's head. And I walked over to it. And it's important to mention that I was observing myself doing this, meaning I didn't come into it going, I'm going to help this kid. I'm going to do it. I did not. I just showed up there and I watched myself go through a process. And what I did is I walked over to that child and I put my hand on his head and I began to lift my hand up. And within that moment, this long, glowing, kind of undulating, vibrating metallic mass came out of this child's head. And it's always sounds kind of dumb, but I call it, it was kind of like a metallic slug. I mean, really, it's just the easiest way to describe it. It was like a glowing metallic slug came out of this child's head. And for some reason, I pulled it up, I held it up into the air, and it just dissolved into the ceiling, which that in and of itself is like, what the hell? But the important thing was, although I didn't know it at the time, but there was a sound that came out. There was literally this tone, this wavering, kind of wobbling, unearthly type of sound that was like, this sort of thing that happened. And I held this weird mass up. It dissolved in my hand. I watched my body, in that room, and suddenly I was transported back outdoors. And I was in front of those three men again, and they were doing a slightly different dance where they were facing each other. Now they were all facing each other, and they were like moving their hands back and forth like this. And then suddenly, these orbs of light appeared in their hands. Like I would say the size of like a maybe almost like the size of a basketball, and they were doing this thing where they would shoot one orb out and the other one would catch it, and it was synchronized, so as soon as they would push one out of their hand, the other one would receive it. And it was like this back and forth thing where they were passing this orb of light between them. And like a lot of people, when you're in those situations, I know there's other people that will see this that have been in an out of body experience. Maybe you have as well. Inevitably, the human mind wanders in, and you're like, what is this? What's going on? And that's what happened to me. I was like, what is happening? What's going on here? And all three of those men stopped. They turned, they looked at me, and they threw this orb of light, and I watched the orb of light go directly into my chest. I saw it go into my organs. I saw it go into my blood. I saw it go all the way down into my DNA. And it sort of went all the way around this helix, kind of like a bunch of Christmas lights, where they put lights all over your house. It was like all these little orbs lit up in my DNA. And within that moment, I started to leave that space. It was like my body started phasing out, and the next thing I know, boom, I was sitting in that little chair back in Los Angeles. And so that in itself is a wild experience. But the important thing is, in the days after that, people came in, and I was just doing my normal healing session with this woman. And there was one lady in particular that came in shortly thereafter. And for some reason, in the course of her session, I was unable to do anything. It was like I could tell something was deeply wrong with this person. She was just in a state of extreme trauma. And I would do certain, things energetically at that time, certain techniques. And it was one of the first times where nothing worked. Literally, I would just sat there with this person. I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, it's not responding. And something in my head was like, make the sound. And it sounds dumb, it sounds crazy, but I literally mimicked the sound that I heard in that out of body experience. And in the second of doing so, that woman started to shake and she started to cry. And she went through a thing that we see with a lot of other people when you have a big bubble of a dead emotion in the body and you can't get it out. It's like one day you'll cry and your body will just heave and cry and sob as long as it takes until it's done. And it was like something just kept coming out of her over and over, and she was like, I'm sorry, and I'm like, it's okay, it's cool. And I got to watch how something within that frequency changed. I was able to use it, and it was really just me mimicking it. And so the rest of the story is just real quickly, I would say, a few months later down the road, I had another experience with these same beings. This one was very different. It was the same race of beings, but it was a group of grandmother, like old women. And what they essentially did was, I was in a very difficult stage at that time. I was going through a lot of my own trauma. And I had this experience with them very similarly to how I described this one, where I suddenly appeared in this place, totally sober, mind you. It was just like I was just doing my thing in the day, just coming home, sat down on my bed. There was a lot of emotion in my body, but it was like I entered into their world somehow. And I talk about it in the book. There's a lot more to it. But in this experience, I noticed that these women were chanting and they were saying these phrases. And it was like, honestly, it was like three syllables, and they would do it over and over again. And it was like, Maruvaya Vura Duchi. They were doing this like chanting thing. And it had a profound effect on me. And lo and behold, just like in the other time, not too long later, I began to, think, okay, well, maybe I can use these terms, maybe I can mimic it. And at the time, I was trying to write content for a class I was doing, and I had been stalled by how to explain the work that I was doing. And they essentially gave me a language with which to use. And so the end of the story is this: I found out later on, after a lot of self searching and working with other people, getting confirmation from other psychics. It's like I went crazy. I looked for it everywhere. I tried to find, who were these beings? What were they? What was this language? What is this sound? I didn't find anything. I found things that were close to it. But what I was shown in my own journeys was that this was part of a language that was used on Earth in a period of time that what we might call pre-Atlantean, meaning it was
Mhm.
from a previous epoch and a previous development stage on Earth. And it was a time on Earth in which the primary forms of technology were light and sound. A lot of us have heard of these eras of human development. And that essentially
Mhm.
myself and many other people, I was not the only one. There's other people that use this system, but that we were part of what we would call the carriers of that language. And so in the time since, it has become the number one technique that I use in energy clearing. And it's really just a series of phrases and mantras and sounds that one will learn to make that have a very particular interaction with the body. It creates dilation of energy centers. And so, anyway, watch out because I'll talk on this forever, but that's essentially how it showed up for me. And so, yeah, there we go.
I'm no, I'm loving this because it's making sense to me. Like it's lining up because um like I've mentioned many times, I'm at the beginning of my, well, I've been on the journey for a while, but I'm still figuring stuff out. And I'm starting to think that I might actually know more than I think I know. But um
Definitely.
I've been doing this for a while, and one of the things that I've found, like I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm a sewing machine operator, and
Oh, cool.
I love it. Like that's like Don and I, like we've got this partnership. Like he's at home like doing some work from here, and he's supporting me while I'm out into the 3D world. And I actually prefer it that way. If he doesn't have to go into the 3D, then don't do it. I'll take the hit. Because
Yeah,
I
man.
love, like I do love my job. I mean, I have other places I would rather be, but for now it's perfect. But it also
Mm,
gives me a lot of time to listen to podcasts.
nice.
And so I have like a part of my deep dive was learning about frequency and how important it is. And so what you were saying just absolutely lines up with what I've discovered. um like there was talk, like I have discovered about different times, like when you were describing about pre-Atlantean, it makes sense because there was a civilization at one point. um I know they, like they talk about Tataria. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's what it was, but
Maybe.
it sounds very.
I certainly
What's that?
hope so. I certainly hope it was.
Well, it
But yeah, go ahead.
it sounds like, to what you're describing, that's what it sounds like. That's immediately where my head went. And my understanding of it was that that's what they were all about, was frequency. And like the part of the theory that I've seen is, like how it was like the world has been hijacked. And like I'll just use churches for example. At one point they were, from my understanding, energy generators.
Mhm.
And
They kind of
like the
still are.
organs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe not the good kind now, but before they were, I feel that they were hijacked from what I
Yeah.
found. And and that's where the organs come from. And when you get those organs going, right, the frequency from that is just, it's just amazing. Like like I get chills when I hear it.
I
And
agree.
so what you were describing absolutely lines up. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny that you would even mention the organs in such a way because that is, I think, one of not so addressed areas of our anatomy that hold potentially even more energy, experience, and even knowledge than things like our chakras or the meridians. Well, I mean, if you want to get technical, they all of them have a very particular frequency and role within what we would call the templates of the energy body. But one of the things that I've kind of learned to specialize in over the past few years is opening up the layers of energy around our organs, which is honestly one of the biggest things that keeps us stuck in chapters of life, keeps us stuck in identity stages. For some people, it keeps us stuck in lack mentality. Other people, it keeps us stuck in addictions. It could be a number of things. It's not to say it's the only thing that helps us stay stuck in those stages, but I haven't seen too many people that do similar work that I do that move beyond the chakra system. And I think that when you really want to start working with people's energy body, you have to learn the other systems. Well, maybe not you have to, but if you want to go to an entirely different level and be able to affect people's energy in a substantial way that actually leaves a result and that people can tell later on, like, I actually feel like something happened. It's like you got to move beyond certain areas. Now, I just think like the organs right now are incredibly alive. And if you want to get super technical, when we look at the process of ascension, it tells us that every element of ourself and every element of this conscious world will go through a stage of evolution where it will become something else out of what it once was. And that happens within the physical body as well. And so it's like a lot of us will hold these chapters of disconnection and trauma within our body that don't respond to chakra work, they don't respond to meridian work. And that's because it's literally surrounding your organs, the liver being a really, really big example. For most of us in this world, we're absorbing so much toxicity. I'm not trying to say everyone has a sick liver. Some of us, our liver's totally fine, but just in general, as a human society right now, we're getting assaulted by toxicity, seed oils, pharmaceuticals, sugars, syrups, well, whatever you want to call it. There's a million, heavy metals, whatever it is. And, liver, gallbladder, kidneys will also handle a lot of that. And those are places that respond remarkably well to vibratory sound when you're doing energy work. But anyway, watch out because I'll talk about energy anatomy forever. So careful, careful. I'll keep going. But yeah,
Oh, Matthew, no, I'm loving this because,
thank you.
and I'm listening and I'm thinking, okay, well, this might actually, I have my best friend, like we've been lifelong friends. Her and I have very different views of things, and I know that she's never watched an episode because she has different views, but there are some things that she is open to, and what you're describing, like, I think it's very important because I feel like she is in a place that if she watched this particular episode, um the services that like the healing that you're talking about sounds exactly what could possibly help her too. Like, she's got some ailments, she's carried around a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I just yeah, I love this. Like, I appreciate you explaining it because this is what us newbies need to know. And I guess another question that I have, um in again on my quest, I found out about qigong and German new medicine. Is this what you do? Is it related, or is there
Good
any
question.
similarities, completely different?
Yeah, well, I can tell you one thing. I honestly don't know anything about German new medicine. I might know some of the fundamentals of what it entails, but what I can tell you is that I believe Qigong is one of the most powerful hidden forms of regenerative technology available to us on the earth plane. And it was people that know me know eventually I will start ranting about qigong because I was a person that, like a lot of us, I was assaulted and victimized by a number of very toxic things and traumas and abuses and also entities and attachments and really, really extreme darkness at another stage of my life. And it was only until I began doing qigong in 2015 when what I would call the absorbency and the internal strength or the ability to deflect darkness or toxic frequencies actually happened. And I believe it was because I started practicing Qigong every day. And I say this to people that watch our channel all the time. If there's anything that you ever take from me, let it be the path of energy body cultivation, because it will fundamentally change you. I am a living example. There's a lot of people out there that say, I'm always encountering negativity or energies, or I get totally worn out by people, or I hang out with my family and I feel sick, or I do this or that, or I get totally, you know what I mean? We get drained by the world. There's an entirely free method of strengthening yourself to where you will never have to go through that again. And it's through Qigong. And trust me, there's other ways. It's not the only one, but it's the
Mhm.
one that worked for me. It's the one that worked for other people. And I always make a stupid comparison. It's like everyone's seen, like a martial arts pro or some master that can just like, like in the Matrix where they just deflect everything or like slide out of the way. And the truth is, as cheesy as it sounds, practicing Qigong will give you the ability to do that with non-physical energy. And it is so, so real that it's one of those things that it's like people hear me and they're like, really? You tell me if I just stand in my bedroom and do these weird breathing movements and, move around real slowly every morning, that somehow I'm going to somehow, gain strength in my body, let go of toxicity, lose inflammation, change literally the balance of my blood sugar, reawaken, non-physical channels, open up my psychic abilities. A list goes on and on. You're telling me if I just do this stupid thing every day, that'll start happening? Literally, yes. It's almost a guarantee. I've not met one person yet who has not devoted themselves to doing Qigong for, I would say, give it 2 months. If you could do it every day for 2 months, because it does take investment of time, but if you could give yourself 2 months where you would do Qigong for 15 to 30 minutes a day, make it like a part of your routine, like when you get up and brush your teeth and put your clothes on, you will not find one person. I truly believe this. Not one single person will say that didn't do anything. That didn't work. I feel worse. It's impossible because it will open up channels of stuck and trapped and toxic energy in your body that many of us don't even know it's there. It's like you won't even know it's there until you start opening up this part of you. And within a few months, you'll be in such a different mindset that you'll be saying exactly what I'm saying now. You'll be telling other people, dude, if you start doing this thing, you're gonna change. And people will look at you and go, what? Really? And then some of them will do it. And it's like it's universal, man. There's a reason why people in China get put in prison for practicing Falun Gong. I mean, there's other reasons as well, but one of the reasons why is because, Qigong, Falun Gong, a lot of these other things will actually regenerate your body. They will regenerate your organs. They will actually reverse age you. And, for people that are part of the hidden toxic control structure of our world, they don't want us to do that. You know what I mean? They don't want us to have some secret way of gaining massive internal strength and becoming unfuckwithable. The world doesn't want us like that. They want us to be weak and toxic and subservient. And when you start practicing Qigong, there's a level of awareness that will come into you that it changes who you are. And so, anyway, I recommend it to everybody who's starting this path. And I'll say one final thing and then shut up. There's what I call 4 gateways to true intuitive activation. Not that there's only 4 gateways, but I've kind of put together what I've seen as being 4 main areas that people will need to devote themselves to if they really want to open up their psychic abilities. And the fourth gateway is energy body cultivation. It will be the deciding factor between people who become fascinated by energy work and mystical things for a few months in 2024 and then peter out, between those people and those that suddenly make it a lifestyle and they expand in ways that they never thought were possible and they let go of weird issues in their life in ways that they never thought were possible. The deciding factor will be if they cultivate energy in your body. And so, anyway, I'll pause there, but yeah.
Thank you for that. And that, like, qigong is something that I've found in the community that I've started to roll in. Um, so during my podcast journey, it's kind of like my deep dives and stuff. It's kind of interesting because I started listening to like I'm not going to name names, but
Okay.
there was a mainstream podcast that, like I appreciate every one of them. Like they're putting out the information and stuff. And I found as I started um listening more and diving more, it's like, okay, this is resonating with me right now, but I kind of got some red flags, and but then they'll have a guest on that I resonate with. And so then I I will go and I'll listen, I'll follow the guest. And so there was a couple of podcasts that I did find that they did, and that is where I found out about qigong, and I found out about human design, and it's things. And it's unfortunate, like basically these individuals are on the same team, but they're also very, what I call, pay to play. They will give you tidbits, but if you want more information, then you have to join their and take their
Yeah,
courses and stuff, which and if people have the money, absolutely. And I'm not going into crying the money blues here, but right now for my family, we're kind of limited, so
I feel you.
we can't,
Yeah,
like in the moment, we can't financially, like we're not a spot
right.
where we're able to financially support everybody. And so I am grateful to these individuals, but I have moved on. And then that's where I started, because, and this is the part where I will start naming names. Chris Matthew was on one of these, he was a guest on one of these podcasts.
Mm.
And so that led me to where we are now. Like it led me to how I met, how we met Rob, and the whole nine yards. It was Chris
Nice,
who kicked it all off.
nice.
And and so I'm super grateful to these other individuals, but and I mean, they're on the same team, but they're not. If you like, I have a feeling you know what I
Oh,
mean.
totally. Yeah.
And so this is the part where like I'm super excited about the work that you're doing, because you're you're basically doing like similar work, but you're coming from a more benevolent place. Like you're sharing the information, and like putting out, like, okay, this is something you might want to look into, like what you said about qigong. Whereas these other ones, it's like, okay, we're offering qigong and you have to pay for it, and they don't really encourage you to do your own research, kind of thing.
Yeah.
and and like the way that I see it is that, like an individual like you are like, you were very encouraging, and you've answered a lot of my questions in regards to qigong.
Cool.
But I still, and like, and it's I'm excited to dive more into it, because it is everything that, like, what you've said is everything that I've run across so far. But at the same time, like, I know that's going to make profound differences. But I would like to, like, when I'm in the position, I would absolutely still love to book a session with you, because I feel like that would just enhance it even more.
It certainly can. It certainly can. And I guess what I would say to that is I have observed the similar gatekeeper quality that many so called spiritual teachers or practitioners will kind of uphold. And at the same time, I have to admit, I mean, I also charge for the classes and the stuff that we do and the sessions and everything. I think maybe I would like to say one of the differences between what we would do and maybe other people that would make it more of a business model is that the majority of what I talk about are things that I've actually done. And I did not learn this path from other people. I know it sounds crazy, but I never took a single class in anyone's energy body thing or anyone's energy clearing or shamanic healing or anything. I did go to some retreats. I did work alongside and observe people that I knew were real and ask them questions and talk about. And there was some good people who really just shared their knowledge with me. And so I think that I was conditioned through more of a community kind of, we're a soul group. Let's get everyone up to where we used to be in other lives, or help each other, remember. And I think I was blessed by that, because it kind of conditioned me to continue to offer certain things, whereas other people would be like, oh, you gotta have to pay me if you want to go any further. And
Yeah.
because I didn't end up doing that with anyone else, I've chosen to remain accessible, from the perspective that even if people don't have money and they message us and say, I really want to do a session with you, but I only have this much, or this is what I have. It's like the answer is nearly always yes. I mean, it really is. Like, people will be drawn to you that can benefit from what it is that you do. And I think when you open up, more of a path of exchange, rather than, well, you got to pay this price, you know what I mean? People, it'll continue to sustain each person. And but that said, every single thing that I do, you can find online for free. Every single
That's
thing, even the capsule phrases. People email me them all the time. There's a series of phrases, like I said, that I learned, that if people email me, I will literally just send you the document that has every single phrase that you can start using on your own. It is free of charge. And honestly, though, I got to be real, it's not coming from some dignified place of like, I must share this for free. It's really coming from a place of like, well, this is a language. Nobody owns a language. You know what I mean?
yes,
I
yes,
didn't make it up. There was a part of me that thought I did for a while. I was like, I must have just made up these things, and I don't know. I guess it kind of works. But after literally over 4,000 times of using this, I realized, like, okay, this is so far beyond that. And when it comes to learning a language, the only thing you have to do is practice. You just have to hear it and practice it and pick up a little bit of this or that. But the real results come from being willing to do it over and over and over again. And so I don't know, there's certain things that I give out for free. And yet at the same time, honestly, if people want to take our classes, yeah, there's a charge, you got to pay for them. But I would like to think you find a balance. Like, when you're really doing this work, and it stops becoming, or it's not a business plan. Because for a lot of people, I gotta be real, it's not to say that they're not sincere, they're not doing good work, but you'll learn really quickly who's doing this thing as a business plan, and for other people that are doing it because they have no other choice. And I guess if there's one thing I've learned about myself, it's like, this is the only thing I can do on earth at this point. I don't know how to do anything else. I'm honored that it sustains me. I'm honored that I don't have to be one of those people who puts posts out every day on Instagram of me working out and doing spiritual activities and spiritual photo shoots in Bali, and, like, come to my goddess retreat. Like, I'm blessed in that I've never had to do such things. Somehow, as soon as I started doing this work, spirit started bringing people into our life. And it's not to say that there's $1 million, but it's like there's been a steady flow of people that have kept me alive since 2017, and there's never been a stage where it stopped. Yeah, there was stages where I wasn't
yeah.
doing good, and I was toxic, and I was kind of fucking up, and I had to make changes. And they'll kind of take people out of your life at that point. They're going to be like, well, we're going to give you way less clients for the next couple months so you can just straighten yourself out. That will certainly happen, but it never ended. And anyway, there's probably a million reasons for it, but I feel where
Well,
you're
no,
coming
and
from. Go ahead.
in my opinion, and you seem to like there's some parallels, I think, with our views. Um, I'm approaching, okay, so right now I'm working on, like, so my channel's a few different things. It's interviews, like, for the newbies, but I'm also focusing on do it yourself. Right now my current focus is doing crochet classes. And
Yeah, nice.
so yeah,
That's
I
cool.
just did I did a live last weekend, and then I just shot my first like beginner crochet tutorial. And so my plan for that, I'm going to put all of it out for free, because it's information. And I'm not a gatekeeper. I don't want to be a gatekeeper either.
Yeah.
I know what crocheting has done for me. Like, there was a point where I was a single mom, and it was helping me pay the bills.
Right.
And so I want to give that information back. I want to give it out. I want to liberate it. And 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 even like spinning yarn, that one I had to go to college to learn how to do that, and you want to talk about gatekeeping.
That's sort of a lost
So
art nowadays, right?
yeah, yeah, not on my watch.
Nice.
That's what that's my plan is. I've done one spinning video, and I'm planning on doing more spinning videos as
Cool.
well to show people that it's still available. And I will be doing demonstrations and teaching the basics and doing videos. But if and it's the same with crocheting, knitting, anything. If I'm going to be doing one-on-one, or if I'm going to be doing classes, then absolutely I'm on the same page. If you're doing classes and you're taking time out and sharing your knowledge, then like I feel it's okay to be compensated for it. And I'm of the same mindset. Okay, if somebody couldn't afford to, like, monetarily to take one of my classes, let's do an energy exchange then. Like,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. But the way I'm seeing it is like, just as an example for me, is that I'm going to teach the stitches because it is common knowledge. And like, for people that know, there are a million videos out there. And even at that, I told the viewers, like, my way is also not the only way. And if
That's
it
fine.
resonates with you, beautiful. But watch as many videos as you can. And I
Yeah.
just believe that if you're open and you're encouraging people that look up to you, saying, okay, I do know my shit, but I'm also not the only one. They're
Yeah.
going to look around, but they're going to respect you all that much more for it, because
Yeah.
you're not out there like beating your chest. I'm the only one that has this knowledge. No.
Yeah. I very much agree. I mean, really, it's funny that you would do that with the whole yarn and the crocheting scene because it's like you're taking a line directly out of what I do. I literally tell people that exact same thing. I'm like, get as many sessions as you can with as many different people. Learn all the different techniques, look at all their videos, watch what works, take little bits of each person. I mean, literally, this is what I say. Take a little bit of every person that you observe and work with, put it all together and make your own thing out of it. And you'll notice when you've done that in your own world, just like you're saying, suddenly you'll have a channel. Suddenly you'll be showing people how to do it. Suddenly you'll be demonstrating it in some way. And whether it's two people or 200, people will be like, oh, really? What are they doing? Oh, okay. That's how you'll know when you've kind of reached that stage because you'll be putting together something that's uniquely your own. It's very much the same thing for those that start doing energy work on a more dedicated level. And I don't mean to say that people are supposed to do it professionally. I think that was just the contract that I signed, but literally everyone can. Everybody can. And I think just like you're saying, it's like there's many roads. And anyway, yeah, I definitely feel where you're coming from. So
Well, and I think it's well, and then it might be in my opinion, and it might be a newbie thing, but from what I'm seeing, like you were saying about how you've been blessed, and like you've been able to maintain, and it's paying the bills and stuff. I think it's because of your attitude towards it,
maybe.
because you're sharing the information, and the universe is like, hey, you're doing a community service here. We're going to take care of you.
I hope so. I really genuinely hope so because like I said, it's been the only thing I've done since 2017. And I'll be real, like I think when you do this kind of work on a full-time basis, you go through a lot of strange things. You notice how you dissociate from the regular world. Things that you used to be interested in anymore seem fake and meaningless. Certain friendships will go away, new ones will show up, you know what I mean? But it's like you go through a lot of really bizarre changes. And, I would like to think that I've kept myself available to those that need us. But just like everyone else, you will go through a lot of shit and you'll go through a lot of
Yeah.
darkness and you'll be faced to look at your own wounds and your own, issues in ways that I think other people that do different walks of life might not have to. And so it's like sometimes, that's why I laugh. Sometimes my attitude's horrible and I'm like, why am I doing this? And it's like, which you're going to go through. I think that's part of the process.
Yeah,
It's a very, very strange thing. That's why I was saying at the start of this, there are times literally when I get done working with someone and I'm like, what the hell is it that we're even doing? Like, really, when you think about it, it's like, what do? I bring people through this internal journey, or we pull cards and look at non-physical things, or, for other people in the world, the thing that I do is something they don't even believe is real. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And that's
yeah,
a very particular thing where it's like you're working with forces many people don't even believe in. And so, I mean, ultimately, I'm very grateful, but it's a very, it's a very strange thing. Like I said, I never saw it coming. So,
yeah, yeah.
mm.
No, that is so cool. Um, would you like to talk about your book? Because I'm
Oh,
very
totally.
I'm very curious. Yeah,
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 yeah. So it's coming out on June 22nd, and it is called Remember Your Mission. Maybe you're not crazy. Maybe you're psychic. And so what it ultimately is really the story of what happened to me in 2015, and honestly the series of events that took place in my life that led me to where I am right now. Like I said, I only started doing this professionally in 2017, and it was at the hands of a very particular type of energetic activation that took place in my life in 2015. And some people have heard me talk about it, but it was almost accidental. I was in a different career, in a different marriage, in a different part of the country, doing different things in a whole different timeline. And I had an experience where essentially, to make it super short, a woman opened my crown chakra without me knowing what a crown chakra was, not even knowing that it was a possibility, not even knowing it was a thing. And um, it changed my entire life. It led to what I believe to be, and there's always a lot of new agey buzzwords people like me will throw around, but I call it a walk-in experience or a literal physical timeline shift. And it was right around July 2015. And in 30 days of my life, everything changed. Every single thing about me suddenly shifted. It was like I had this experience with some person at an outdoor homeless fair I was working at. This weird energy opened up in my head, and suddenly beings started coming into my room at night. I started moving through a portal in the ceiling, coming back into my body. I would fall. This sounds dumb. I was talking about it last night. I would literally fall out of my physical body, which you're like, what? How does that happen? It was like I would just walk past a person and I would somehow get stuck in their energy field. And I wish I could say it was cool and awesome and sexy and magical. And it wasn't. It was horrible. I felt literally insane. I actually believed. I was like, so this is what psychosis is like. Great. I work in the mental health field. I guess I get my own taste. I literally thought I was going crazy for the first few months of that journey. And it took a lot of people coming into my life and some chance encounters and certain events and things to go, you know what? You're not crazy. You're a psychic. You're a healer. You're a mystic. There's a whole other timeline, a whole other path for you. And for me, I had to go through like crazy, bewildering trauma and just all kinds of bizarre stuff to get there. And so this book's essentially the story of that journey from 2015 to 2017 is the initial part of it. What happened? How did we get here? And then second half of the book is what I call the four gateways of true psychic activation. Once you've been through that journey within your own way, let's say, because I think a lot of people that are going to find this are people that have in some way or form, they're like, yeah, I think I'm going through a similar shift. Nothing fits anymore. I feel like I'm losing my mind. And so let's say if you are, what can you do? Okay, cool. So now you realize maybe I'm not crazy, maybe I'm psychic, but then what? And so that's where the four gateways come in: detox, divination, energy body anatomy, energy body cultivation. And so part two of the book is just talking about, like, okay, how do you get through these gateways? How do you make this work? How do you turn this into something that is not a mental illness and not an addiction and not a strange personality defect? How does it become a part of you that you can then use to help others that are going through the same thing? And so That's basically it. It's a two-part thing, and yeah, it comes out on June 22nd. I guess my honest prayer is that the world will notice it. I think like a lot of us, that's kind of the real desire that we have, is to be acknowledged by the world. And I'll admit I'm human and that's what I desire as well. And so we'll see how it goes. Well, who knows? Who knows what'll happen, but yeah, that's it. So
Well, and thank you. Like it sounds intriguing. Like Dawn, I wish you could see the reaction on Dawn's face.
nice. Thank you.
Because like like we're definitely going to get a copy for sure,
Thanks.
and like we will be in touch about it because it sounds exactly what we need, because like some of the things that you were describing, and like you're saying like it sounds crazy. Yeah, because there's been a lot of parallels in this household.
Yeah,
And
I
it
feel
does
you.
sound crazy, but what you were describing is similar, like it's similar experiences, similar craziness that's been happening here. The
Yeah.
latest, like, oh my goodness, like I don't think I've shared a whole lot about the story with Dawn's awakening. Like I know he's told it on his channel quite a bit, but the short condensed version is that last September he was having a succession of nightmares. And I've been on my deep dive for a while, and I am like, would you just start listening to some podcasts with me? Like I was getting so frustrated. The whole you can lead a horse to water thing, right? And like so
Yeah.
I mean I kept on putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there, and then finally I heard an episode, and it was of Rob's, like the typical skeptic. Arkeem Raw was on it. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
oh my good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dawn,
Cool.
you need to listen to this, please. Like I almost tied him down and said, you're gonna listen to this and you're gonna like it. Didn't have to quite get that far, but yes, he listened to it, and then that's when everything started happening, and he started asking questions, and he's like, okay, yeah, there's something going on. And so fast forward to a few weeks ago. um Actually, you know what, you're here, tell the story about the overlay and the other you with William.
Oh yeah. So I was sitting in the living room here where I am now, and I was working on something on my phone because I do all my editing over my phone. And our son comes out of the kitchen and sort of laughs, and he's like, "Oh, so that wasn't you?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I thought your mom just kind of came into the room and turned around and went back." He's like, "No, you, the other version of you, just walked behind me. We are so close to a timeline, and I am so close energetically with this other version of myself. We keep blipping in and out of each other's realities. He's actually woke the young lad up out of dead sleep while I'm sleeping in the other room. We'll all end up in the same density, and he'll wake the young lad up like, hey, wake up. And it's my voice, but I'm asleep in the next room. And he and I have both seen, like, peripheral, of course, him walk by in our reality, and then he's just gone.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
wild.
Like
Yeah.
Technically that would mean, if you want to like if you want to get all weird about it, technically that would mean you have a very strong, what many people call astral double. Other times it's a parallel version of you on another timeline, but that is a literally real thing, that you can have other aspects of self that people will come in contact with. Sometimes, in most cases, you might not even know that that aspect of yourself is interacting with people. It'll come to them in dreams. It'll show up in weird places. They'll hear your voice. They'll think like, you were right here a minute ago, and it's like, no way, bro, I was asleep in the other room. And it's like, but that's a real thing. In fact,
yeah,
if you want to get
that's
even more
exactly what
technical, there's people that will spend their whole people that will spend decades of their human life trying to get to the stage where they can have that experience. And so the fact that you already have a well-formed astral double would mean technically that you would have a strong ability to astral project, or to go out of body. It would also mean that you would have an ability to affect physical matter or people's emotional bodies with just your own intentions. It's actually, honestly, it's kind of what some people would call an advanced trait. Like it's an advanced energetic ability. Some people just have them. Other people work for them. You know what I mean? Some people a switch turns on. Other people try their whole life and they never get there. And so I don't know. That's a very distinct thing. I always say if you have found this community, if you found this area of interest or these topics or this stuff that we're all always talking about, especially through things like Rob's show, it's usually because there's a piece of you in it. There's a part of you that's involved with it. There's something within you that spirit is trying to communicate. And yes, it's different for every person. The abilities, the traits, the frequencies, they're going to be different for every person, but at this stage of the Earth game, I think we can all agree that nothing really happens by mistake. You didn't just stumble into like suddenly I started watching this guy's show, and then one day I watched this, podcast my wife was giving me, and I don't know, now I realize this. It's like it didn't happen by accident. Spirit will wait for the exact right moment when you're exactly available, and they'll be like, and then
Yeah.
it's like sometimes we receive it. And so anyway, that's wild, dude. Good job.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you talk about the energetic abilities because on another show, I had recounted a UFO sighting when we were kids. There was a group of like 4 or 5 of us kids and like 3 or 4 adults, and I recounted it to a MUFON guy on another interview. And I kind of thought, and I didn't even say it out loud, I just felt it. I was like, I wonder if they still remember. Well, about 4 days later, my friend that was actually there, out of the blue, texts me. She doesn't watch my show. She's like, yeah, it was 93 or 94. We saw it going over Georgian Bay and it kept going up over the escarpment back and forth. I'm like, did I ask you something? And she's like, no. Like she was pissed off. I don't know if I was in her head or what, but she answered me without me ever asking the question about the experience I couldn't stop thinking about.
And she's on the other side of the country too. Let that part out.
Yeah.
And you don't talk to her
Dude.
on a regular basis.
Oh man, that's a really good example of being part of what we call the shared fourth density astral space. That sort of framework of consciousness that allows us to share thoughts or to be in contact with other people with no words. And it's like someone across the country will suddenly say the thing you were about to say, or they answer the question that you hadn't even asked, or they say a certain word that you've been saying in your head all day. That's the shared fourth density astral space. And you'll know when you're connected with it because stuff like that will happen. And so, I guess if you want to get even more technical, that's the energetic field that you learn to plug into when you're doing psychic readings and you're conversing with spirit and you're working with energy. A lot of people talk about, 5D and 6D. We have to go through 4D to get there. And that's the realm in which
Yeah, yeah.
all is known and all is available. And every single person is also existing in that outer realm, which is essentially that out of body state. And so anyway, not to go on and on, but that's literally real, dude. It's
That's-
it's totally real. Good job.
Oh, oh,
He's a guest.
oh. So, something that Don brought to my attention, and if you want to talk about it, you're going to be part of the Full Disclosure Now conference, correct?
Oh yeah, totally. Yes, yes, we can. So that's coming up July 15th through 18th this year out in the wilds of I think it's St. Pete Beach, Florida. And there's a whole crew of really cool, awesome people. I'm just one of many. But yes, we are going to be there at the Full Disclosure Now conference. I'll be doing a little bit of a talk, a little bit of a workshop, probably a bunch of sessions. My wife and Nora will be there as well. She does very similar work to what I do. She's definitely much more astrologically inclined. I am the least astrological professional psychic there is. I know very little about it. But she works in very similar yet different ways at the same time, and so she will also be there as well, and tons of really awesome people. And yeah, I'm praying for a really good turnout and a lot of really cool people. And to me, it feels like a good event. Honestly don't get to do a lot of speaking events. I've never been a part of the cool club of desired speakers and spiritual influencers or disclosure celebrities. And so which is probably honestly a good thing, because well, probably many reasons, but
Yeah.
so I don't necessarily do a lot of events, but we're definitely proud to be at this one, and so yeah, we shall be there.
Oh, Yeah, it looks amazing. Like there's a lot of people in the community that, like that we've met, like just online, but like Rob Khalil's going to be there, and that's super exciting. Like just as an observer, because unfortunately we're not going to be able to go, but I already know, like this
Yeah,
event's
you
just
guys are
going to
up
be
there
off the
in
hook.
like Canada, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you guys.
we're yeah, we're in the West, so
Okay. That's a hell
it's
of
a
a
bit of a
journey,
bit of a
dude.
hike.
That's a
Yeah,
long, long way. I feel you.
yeah. So, hopefully, things will line up in our favor. Like we're working, we're still, we're still learning and stretching our manifestation wings, like figuring that stuff out. But it's definitely a goal, like something that we want to shoot for. We'd love to. We're gonna practice manifestation and see if we can go next year.
I feel like there's going to be an event that comes to Canada or somewhere around there, somewhere that is easily accessible for the people in that part of the world. Because you'll notice most of the conferences are usually on like West Coast USA or some random place, which for some people is easy to get to. I think that's one of the cool things about Full Disclosure Now conference is that it's in Florida, and there's not a lot of things
Yeah.
in Florida, but we don't see a lot of stuff up in that part of the world, and I honestly would like to. I think, the more we can branch out, the better. I don't know if they let me into Canada, but but I would definitely do an event there, but. Yeah,
That would be cool. Well, yeah, and I don't know if you've heard of Karen Holton. She
I
does
believe
the
so.
quantum shot, yeah, quantum guide show and Angels and Aliens podcast. We actually,
Sounds cool.
excuse me, we just finished up. She did the quantum health transformation program.
Nice.
She received it as a download, and she's doing the same thing. Like she has shared this program, she's put it out there, and then she's put PDFs together, and that's what she charges for, because she took the time to do it. And but the information is free, the course is free. But where I'm going with that is she lives an hour and a half away from us,
Nice.
so it it is something, she is putting together a get together this summer, and so we're gonna dip our toe in the water and see, like there's somebody, there's a somebody that we talked to on Facebook. He's from Edmonton, and he plans on attending if it all lines up. So we're trying to get the party started up here.
That's cool. I hope you make it there. I really hope you do.
You. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap things up?
That's a good question. I don't know that there's anything specifically that I would want to add, but there is one thing that I would say, and that is that, I think for a lot of us, that it'll seem like sometimes the world isn't receiving what we have, or you'll think, my channel is so small, who's ever going to see this? Who's ever going to watch it? And I've been through a lot of that in my own world. And what I've found is that the right ones will always see it, like the ones that are meant to find it. And so I always say, if you're one of the people that finds this broadcast, whether it's now or in 10 years in the bowels of YouTube, just know that there is an ability within you. You have a psychic ability. You still have a purpose in this realm. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, where you've been in this human journey. Everybody, every single one of us has an ability. And I think the cool thing about living on Earth right now is that we're in the time in which it's needed now more than ever before. So I always say this to people: do not give up, do not lose heart. You are not a victim of this modern world. You have an ability, you have a purpose, and yeah, hang in there. So, anyway, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I love that so much, and I'm of the same mindset, because right now the last few days, I did gain a few more subscribers. What am I?
34.
Yeah,
There
I'm
you
up to
go.
34 subscribers now, and I know
Almost
I'm pretty
halfway to
little, but
100. That's cool. Good job.
well,
Yeah.
and the way that I'm approaching this, though, I'm not on YouTube. I mean, if monetization happens, awesome. If I take off, awesome. But my intention, if I reach one person, my job's done.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
that's that's where I'm at. And like you never know who's going to be watching. I think back to the little girl that went to the county fair and saw the lady sitting at the spinning wheel.
Yeah. Oh, really?
and then
Yeah.
and then like 30 some odd years later, I'm that lady now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Good
and
job.
yeah, and so anyway, where I'm going with that, you never know who's watching. And so I want to thank you, Matthew, from the bottom of my heart, because you have answered so many of my questions. And I am very confident that like people who are just starting to figure things out now, like I feel like this conversation will be very, very beneficial to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank
No,
you for inviting me. It's certainly an honor.
no, I absolutely appreciate you. Now, would you like to tell everybody where they can find you?
Right. Yes, we are for those that want to book sessions or just find out what we do, we are at rememberyourmission.com. That's the primary access point for the work that myself and Honora do. You can also find us on YouTube at Remember Your Mission, where we were doing a very regular show for a while. I took a few months off to write a book, so that's coming back. But we do regular lives and, readings and whatnot through YouTube. That's kicking up again. And then lastly, you can find us on Patreon at the Blue Flame Collective, which is a monthly group that, man, we've been doing for almost 4 years, every month for literally nearly 4 years straight. People keep showing up, but it's a really good low cost entry point for people that want to get a reading, that want to learn how does real intuitive connection work, what are readings like. We do a monthly reading group where everyone that shows up gets a reading, and then we do a monthly energy clearing where people come in as a group and we do an energy clearing meditation. And so, yeah, we do it literally every month. And so, yeah, you can find us at those places.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I
Totally.
just I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in. And thank you for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to share this video with anybody that you think would benefit. And you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much, and I love you all. Take care until next time.
Mm.
This summer. Join your fellow starseeds, lightworkers, and experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference this July 15th to 18th at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, Secret Space Program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure Movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.